All right. Let's. Okay, we've got some attendees. Can you raise your hand and let us know that you can hear us okay? Okay. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Optiform's first webinar of 2017. So I just want to introduce ourselves. My name is Nicki, and I am the Manager of Business Development for Optiform. And then we also have joining us today Joe Ogborn from Kodak and Todd Pratt from ABBYY. Joe's going to be talking about document scanners today, and Todd will be discussing ABBYY FlexiCapture and automating that accounts payable process using ABBYY FlexiCapture. So just a little bit about Optiform and who we are. Optiform is an Indianapolis-based, Indiana certified veteran-owned business. Excitedly, we are celebrating 23 years in data capture this year. We do have over 250 customers, and a really cool stat about us, we do still have our first customer. We are an ABBYY certified solutions provider, and so what that means is we don't just sell the ABBYY software, but we also handle the implementation, the systems integration, training your staff, and then supporting you after your project goes live. We are also a Kodak authorized reseller. So after Joe goes through and he shows you the document scanners, if that's something that you're interested in, let's follow up afterward and we'll talk more about it. So the reason today that we're having the webinar is that we want to talk about automating the accounts payable process, specifically the invoices. So there are several different steps in this process, and starting from the purchase order all the way down to when that invoice gets processed and the vendor gets paid. And if the process is handled manually, you can see that there's a lot of room for error in each different step, whether that be incorrect data entry, whether that be a document being lost or misplaced. There's a lot of room for error. So on this next slide, there was, don't you just love James Van Der Beek's face there? The AP Association conducted a survey. They surveyed over 500 finance professionals. And when I was looking at the results, these three just really stood out to me. 57% of all of the invoices that they were receiving were coming into them on paper. 63% of them had received an invoice more than once, and then 33% had actually paid those. And I don't know about you, but if I pay my bills more than once, it's going to hurt a little bit. And then 23%, and I think that James was probably included in this 23%, said that they had vendors that stopped working with them because of their inefficient processes. On this next slide here, this morning I just I went over and I pulled a ream of paper from underneath our printer and measured it. And so this is a ream of 500 sheets of paper. We're talking to a company right now who receives 1,000 invoices a day. If each ream of paper is 2 inches tall and they're receiving 1,000 invoices a day and 57% of them are on paper, that's 570 invoices a day on paper. Assuming that each of those invoices is only one sheet, it's only going to take 32 days before those. If they're not processed, they're just stacked up on a desk, it's only going to take 32 days before those reach the top of your desk to the ceiling. So you can see how automating that is going to be very, very important. So with that, I want to hand this over to Joe. He's going to talk about the scanning process of all of those documents and helping you out there. So, Joe?
Good afternoon, everyone. As Nicki said, my name is Joe Ogborn, and I reside out of the Philadelphia area, and I cover the Mid-Atlantic territory for Kodak Alaris. Next slide. Next slide. Kodak, you might be wondering, what is Kodak Alaris? It's a company born from one of the most, the world's most iconic brands. So we are a division of Kodak. Next slide. Still, our particular division, Kodak Alaris, is 3,500 employees, global, with a little over $1.2 billion in revenue. Next slide. Our division of Kodak Alaris is the information management division. We also have different technologies around photochemicals, and then the technology in regards to the taking the pictures on a log flume or on a log flume or a roller coaster, that type of technology. But the division that I work with is information management, and we have a full line of scanners to meet your business needs. And in 2016, our scanners were ranked the best scanner, the scanner line of the year from an independent third-party organization called Buyers Lab, and we actually were awarded that for 2017 as well. I don't have that listed here because it is still to be published. So that will happen soon here within Q1. So they do, like I said, independent testing on all the scanner manufacturers within the document imaging industry, and we've come out 2 years in a row as the line of the year. Our products are used in most verticals, but the top verticals that we have our solutions and our scanner offering with our healthcare, medical records, electronic medical records, the scanning of healthcare documents. Government is one of our largest verticals. Finance, insurance, education, retail, manufacturing, and any organization really with accounts payable, human resources, things like that. Documents need to be digitized these days, and our scanners will give you the best image quality and throughput that you need, and will help you with your business processes. So next slide. This is part of I just wanted to go over our scanner lineup a little bit. We have scanners from a handheld ScanMate i940 that powers off of your USB, off your laptop, to devices that scan 210 pages per minute and scan an unlimited quality per day. So the desktop units that you see, the 1100 series through the 2000 series, are very popular in healthcare and distributed business models, where instead of shipping or couriering documents and invoices and different types of applications into a central location for processing and scanning, folks will do it at the end user level on a desktop, as at a bank, say someone's processing a mortgage loan, you can scan all that paperwork right there and upload it into a system for processing. We have a network scanner, the ScanStation 700 series. Gives you more of a feel of what you might be used to with a multifunction device. There's a lot of things you can do with these scanners when you have limited IT resources or have a fleet of these located at many locations. You can configure and administer these units from one central location. So say you have 100 of these across the country, you can lock down settings, create job functionality, basically set up what people are able to do with that particular device from your central location. Someone logs in with their credentials and they have the functionality that you set them up to have. With one button you could scan to multiple folders, scan to network fax, scan to print, scan to email, all at the same time, unbeknownst to the user. So in the background, things are happening once they perform their scan. It's a way to really lock down settings and such, especially, again, when you have limited IT resources and these things are being deployed and you don't want users to mess with the settings. You can set up job functionality per folks log in as they log in through their LDAP authentication. Then we just kind of move up the line. All the scanners have pretty much the same functionality. Just goes from higher speeds up through higher throughput, where you can handle a certain amount per day, a daily duty cycle. The i2900, the 3000 series, and have integrated flatbed options. The 2900 has a flatbed that lifts up above the exit tray or beneath the exit tray, and then the 3250 and the 3450 have the integrated flatbed as well. Folks sometimes need a flatbed for thicker stock. If there's delicate type documents, maybe old, deeds and such, within the county governments, the courts and the division of deeds and such, they have to scan very old documentation, so they might not want to throw that, put that through a ADF. So that's where that comes into play. Next slide. And then we get into our higher production devices, anywhere from the 4000 series up to the 5850S. The 4250 starts at 100 pages per minute, and you go up to the 5850, which is 210 pages per minute. These units are used in medical records departments. The 5000 series, a lot of insurance companies and banks have these particular devices because just the amount of throughput and the speeds and feeds that they can provide. And with the 5850S, there's actually sorting capabilities. So you can sort by barcode or by patch code. If you have large batches of, say 1,000 documents, and you're separating each document with a patch code, you can sort those patch codes out and utilize them again. It's very time consuming to go back through the batch and actually physically take those patch codes out to be used for another batch. Also, you can sort per size in banking. I've seen it where they'll do a mixed batch of applications, mortgage applications, any type of financial type documents, but also checks. So you can actually sort the checks out based on their size. So they would come out on their own exit tray. These particular devices obviously are much more expensive than the desktop units, but when for processing those types of applications, time is money, and these things are very popular in larger financial institutions. Next slide. this picture is probably pretty familiar to most everyone. We've been talking about the paperless office for 20-some years now, but obviously there's still paper out there and still documents to be processed. So next slide. This has some animation. So so some of the reasons to buy a dedicated scanner. Basically, most folks have all-in-one scanners or multifunction devices in their office, and believe it or not, we coexist. You may think we compete, and I guess at certain levels we do, but we work very closely with that channel because ultimately the multifunction device is not going to handle certain environments. Once your scanning volume becomes too much for a multifunction device, you'll want dedicated scanning. The multifunction devices don't handle the different size type documents as well as a dedicated scanner does. You're basically scanning on this device when folks are in line trying to print, trying to copy, and there's other functionality that this device is used for, and you don't want to basically have it tied up scanning. And also the automatic document feeder, the ADF, is not designed for high volume scanning, and ultimately your service calls will be predominantly on the ADF, where normally those types of calls are for printing and copying and those types of functionality, those types of functions. So you don't want to tie up your machine with rollers that are wearing and the ADF is actually not performing to its ability. So that's when folks bring in the dedicated scanner. And again, we work very closely with that channel because obviously they are pushing their devices, but when they realize that they need a dedicated scanner and are offering to help with their solution, they call us in. So we hear that often. I already have scanning capabilities, but believe me, you will not be, once your scanning volume increases, you're not going to be able to utilize those types of devices. And then also, when you're looking to do more of that distributed model that I discussed earlier, folks would have to get up and down from their desk and such, and you would want to streamline your workflow from the desktop and be able to do other things from a capture application like utilizing ABBYY. So next slide. And as account manager in the Mid-Atlantic, I cover New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. So there's other counterparts in other regions of the United States, and we are your resource for these, for Kodak Alaris. We can basically get you a unit to test. If there is an opportunity to implement, a document imaging system, and you need to take a look at some of the devices prior to making a decision, we can get you a device to test, come on site, make sure that you are up and running for a successful trial, and ultimately let you kick the tires of the unit before moving forward. So once we are able to get folks to agree to that, bringing in a unit, usually it sells itself, and you'll see, how much more productive you're going to be with one of these devices. And what how that's facilitated, usually through the account manager myself. I'll submit a form. We ship a device in from our corporate headquarters in Rochester, New York, and then you have the device for 2 weeks. And we pay all shipping charges and work with you to get that unit installed and configured. So you, again, can experience a successful trial. Next up. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your time. And my contact info is in my slide deck, and please reach out to me if you are in need of any assistance. And if you're outside of my territory, I will certainly put you in contact with one of the account managers in your territory.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All right. Todd, I think you're up.
Thanks, Nicki. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about ABBYY and our FlexiCapture for Invoices application. My name's Todd Pratt. I'm a senior sales engineer with ABBYY, and I've been doing accounts payable automation for about 15 years. So just to give you a quick idea of who ABBYY is in 30 seconds, we're probably best known for our optical character recognition technology, which is an engine that's embedded in lots of different applications throughout the world, and including we use it ourselves for our FlexiCapture and our invoice capture applications. And so we have 40+ million users from 200+ countries and territories worldwide. We have a really large technology base and a large user set where we find applications for our optical character recognition. Included with that, we have over 500 partners worldwide, of which one is Optiform, a preferred partner, and they're, as Nicki said earlier, out of Indianapolis. We're a global company, so founded in 1989 with more than 1,200 people in 16 offices in 13 countries. And so being a global office that has over 200 countries and territories and working with, at our base really as a linguistics company, our OCR engine is capable of reading and converting data from over 190 different languages. So specifically for what we're going to talk about today is our FlexiCapture for Invoices application. And so at the very base of our technology stack is our fine reader engine, and that performs OCR. And so a quick lesson on OCR is that the engine itself will look at a piece of paper or a PDF that's been scanned by one of the Kodak scanners, and it'll convert the characters over to text. The FlexiCapture application looks into that OCR text and is kind of a really powerful search engine specific for invoices that captures the pieces of information out of the OCR that we want, so the invoice number, the invoice date, and things like that. But it's much more than just an OCR application. It can also it allows you to get invoices into the application in a very efficient manner. You can centralize the extraction and validation of the information that you're capturing, and allows for some straight-through processing. So there's certainly a labor-intensive process for getting invoice data entered into your ERP system and paid. And so we work with a lot of AP automation systems as well as other ERP systems for facilitating that data entry. So this obviously gives a lot of benefit for the accounts payable departments. We can capture it at the point of entry. So whether you're a distributed environment or you're a centralized environment, we have applications that will that can handle high-speed, large volumes or departmental volumes through our web clients. You get the CFOs like it because they get faster and better visibility to their outstanding payments. So instead of invoices sitting on a desk somewhere and the CFO or the controller not being aware that they may have a big one to pay, once we get those digitized and into the application, they're aware of those things much earlier. It's also a lower cost per invoice, so just manual keying, especially of large volumes, takes a lot of time and a lot of labor, and so we'll reduce that. And then while we're reducing that, we'll actually improve the quality of the data. Humans are pretty accurate when they're typing, 88% or better usually. We actually enhance that with some confidence thresholds and business rules, database lookups, to make sure that the information that we're capturing is accurate before it moves on. So we'll actually improve the quality of the data that gets entered into the ERP. So just some key functionality. We accept documents from a variety of places, scanners, especially our friends at Kodak. Faxes are not unsurprisingly still being used at several of our clients, and email and mobile devices. So for invoices, email is probably the fastest growing ingestion method for getting documents from one place to another. We'll extract footer and line item information so we can take care of purchase order and non-PO invoices. For the purchase orders, we can offer some straight-through processing by performing matching against PO data that's in our customers' ERP systems. And for anything that sort of falls out of our extraction, we provide on-the-fly training to make the software learn as it goes on. Like I said, we're a global company, so we support not only U.S. but European invoices, as well as quite another few countries, and have the capability of capturing invoices from really anywhere in the world. The FlexiCapture for Invoices application is a very point-specific application for invoice capture, but the FlexiCapture application itself is an enterprise-level application, and you can use it for things certainly outside of the Accounts Payable department. So we have lots of implementations of human resources departments, finance, healthcare, government, all the different verticals that that Kodak was talking about. We can take those documents from the scanners and apply a business process to them. So specifically for the invoices, we do automatic supplier and buyer identification. So when the documents come in, we'll actually look at your vendor master file, and we'll associate the invoice that came in through the mail with the vendor master, the vendor that's in your ERP system, and associate it with your own or our customer's own internal ID, as well as the buyer identification. So if you want an automated way to be able to send documents to the people that purchased items based on who bought it, we can find that information and help automate that process. Out of the box, our invoice application comes with a set of pre-configured extraction of the normal things that you would find off of an invoice that everybody needs to enter inside of their ERP. So invoice number and date, the address of the business unit, address of the supplier, delivery date, purchase order information, and then line items. So we'll talk about line items a little bit more in the upcoming slides and in the demonstration, and how we use those to automate the matching. And then of course currency and total information. So the purchase order matching and line item extraction is done together. So we use our OCR information and the algorithms that we've created to capture line information on an invoice. But then we'll take that and compare it to a master database of purchase order information that's in our customers' ERP systems. And by doing that, we'll be able to bring back and associate the lines on the PO to the lines on the invoice. And so a lot of times people hear of this as PO matching, and you may have heard of two-way or three-way matching. So we support both two-way and three-way matching, which is really just capturing the invoice information to associate to the PO is a two-way match, and the three-way match comes when we associate then that to the goods that have been received on the purchase order as well. So when we can do that in an automated fashion, it helps create a touchless process. So invoices that pass all of our validation rules, that we find a purchase order that we're able to match to an ERP system, and then pull back all of the associated lines from the purchase order, really don't need to be reviewed by anyone. We can build an entire voucher with that information and pass that right on to the ERP system for approval and posting. So it provides especially for purchase orders, a good touchless processing. I call it the happy path through. Whenever we encounter an issue where a piece of information was found, or the OCR engine asks an operator to correct something, we have a learning mechanism so that we don't have to correct those things every time that same invoice comes back in. And we do this through a couple of ways. One is we can do some proactive training. And so by that I mean as we're setting up the system, if there's any high volume vendors, we can provide those to an administrator, and the administrator can allow the system to learn those before we even get started. But during production, the operator actually can improve the data recognition by interacting with our verification module. Anytime they see something that was wrong, they just simply correct it, and it's going to learn that in the background. And so I call that the difference between training and learning. So training is we proactively say, hey, we're going to try try to find these very important vendors to our customers, and then learning is the act of the software actually interacting with the operator, so that as new documents come in or different formats, or if mistakes are made, then we can correct those mistakes, so that as over time the software learns the different vendors that are associated to that customer, and there's a lot less data entry that has to happen. And finally, once we've got all that information together, we'll package it up and deliver it. We can deliver to BPM or ECM systems, electronic content management, or business process management, or AP approval workflow systems, to ERP systems or archives and databases, and we can do that simultaneously. So quite often we have customers that want to send their invoices into a document management system, while we just send the data to their ERP system and maybe link those two applications together. So we have a variety of ways to configure our the delivery of our information, so that you can create actions on that in your third-party applications. Not only can we do that with US invoices, but we can also do that with lots of other countries. So out of the box, we have predefined extraction for the US and Germany, Australia, UK, France, Spain, and Benelux, and the reason that that's important is because regionally each country has a little bit different information that's associated to their invoices. So in the US here we have tax, whereas in Europe they have VAT. In Europe they also have IBAN numbers and bank account numbers that makes their invoicing very easy, where we don't. If we move to Canada, which is part of our U.S. extraction, then they have different taxes. So all of that is built into and predefined in our application. But if there's we've certainly used this in other countries, including Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, and so we can add over 180 other languages that our OCR engine can extract, and we can configure those for invoices in any of those countries. So I thought I would take a few moments here to just go over some of the dreaded questions that we hear from a sales engineering standpoint, and talk about them. These are the questions that we commonly get from customers when we're talking with them, and it's probably worth saying here in a webinar environment. So we always get asked, what's the accuracy? And it's a bit of a loaded question because it depends so much on factors that are outside of the control of our OCR. So things like image quality, paper quality, the type of print, what sort of cleanup we've done, the resolution at which they're captured. So we don't always have the nice Kodak scanner that can provide us with a perfect image and a perfect paper quality. Sometimes you just get what you get. And what method did we use to extract them? Any business rules, things like that. So being something of a loaded question, it's always good to focus on the real goal of accounts payable capture. So efficiency is actually our main goal, and OCR is just one of the tools we use to implement an efficient process. So the FlexiCapture for Invoices application, while we have a very direct focus on capturing information properly with our OCR technology, we also want to help our customers understand how to streamline the ingestion, and so we have technology that helps make that more efficient by monitoring email addresses, helping with distributed environments or centralized mailroom processes. Dealing with outliers. So what happens when we miss something and the OCR goes wrong? We have a verification module that allows operators to very quickly correct exceptions, which is really important. So if you get everything wrong and you only get 2% error, then but if it takes you a long time to correct that 2%, then you're missing out on the efficiency gains. Moving the process up front. So it's sort of well documented that the faster you can find an issue with an invoice, the less it costs you to process that invoice. So by setting our rules and thresholds up front, we can help operators identify documents that maybe there's duplicate documents that Nicki was talking about, or vendors that haven't been credentialed yet. We identify those very early so that you can direct them to the right processes downstream, saving lots of labor that's not necessarily data entry. And then, of course, ERP data. So if you'll ask any customer whether or not their vendor master file is completely clean and without duplicates, inevitably you'll hear no. And so we can actually help with cleaning up vendor master files and PO processes just based on how vendors send that information back to you, and how the actual invoices that you receive match up against the information that you have in your ERP data. So the real goal is efficiency, and we help do that with more than just really high and good OCR accuracy and quality. So the second question we always get is, well, can we just dump everything in and have them automatically separated? And so the short answer is yes, and if you can see the animated GIF there, we can take a series of documents, we can identify them as invoices, and then we can actually, based on changes in those invoices, we can identify the separation places. But the long answer is actually it's not generally the most efficient approach. Usually that's because we can't get to 100 degrees, excuse me, 100% accuracy on our separation. So an operator always has to go back and re-review how the software did that separation. And we found that it's actually more appropriate and more efficient to interact with separation at the scanner level. So you heard Joseph talk about the ability to use separator sheets, and that they even have applications or devices that can pull those separator sheets out of the batch as you're going through it. And so when you're interacting with that work object, you're opening the mail and you're straightening them out, you're getting them ready for scanning. We can help you learn how to batch those things into maybe single and double page, and then multi-page with our patch codes. And then we can be very sure that as we're entering that information through those Kodak scanners, we're getting separation happening at scan time, as opposed to having to get the software to make its best guess and then review that information a second time. And so finally, non-PO documents, can we capture line items from non-PO documents? So again, we have that capability. If they're very structured, then we can capture line information from it. But most of the time I'll ask people, well, if you get that information, what are you going to do with it? There's no purchase order data in the background that we can use to sort of marry those up with any authorizations or any GL codes that are in the ERP system. So you can do it, and if you can do it and make that correlation, then it might be a good idea, but quite generally it's a bad idea to waste your time capturing a lot of information from non-PO invoices, when generally it's going to have to be either an AP operator or the person that bought the goods telling you where you need to put the payment for those goods. Okay. So we're going to go through a demonstration of the software, and just at a high level to review what we've talked about already. We're going to capture the documents, and we can do that from a central or distributed location. We're going to classify them. In this case, we're really just going to talk about invoices, but the application can classify documents from really any type. We're going to extract our business critical data from the invoices, our invoice number and date, all the information that we need to facilitate the payment in the ERP system. And then we're going to validate that that information is accurate. Finally, we're going to deliver that over to an ERP system or to a document management system so that the process can be finalized and posted for payment. So I'm going to hop out of our presentation here for just a second and load up my virtual machine. All right. So here's just a sort of a high-level demonstration of the software in action. What I've got on the screen now is the ABBYY FlexiCapture administration and monitoring console, and this is kind of a supervisor's view into everything that's going on in the system. So if we just look at our summary page, you can see the number of batches and documents, pages, and where they are at any time in the process as we're going through here. It's also got other information about your licenses, your productivity, and then any errors that may be happening. We're going to refer back to this batch report just so that we can see the documents going through the system. And what I'm going to do is open up our thin client scanning module. And from here, we're just going to add a few images from a folder. This is our thin client application, so with it you can distribute it to sort of anywhere in the world via Internet Explorer. and it'll associate itself with any scanners that are connected to the device that you bring this up on. So we can scan it, or I'm just going to add images from our folder. So we can also monitor email addresses as well as sweep network folders. So if you have documents coming in from those multifunction devices and putting them into a network folder, we can automatically pull those into process. An operator would never interact with it. The same with emails. We'll just monitor that email address, and we'll pull the attachments that are associated to it directly into process. When you're scanning documents and you're dealing with that large percent of paper that still happens throughout the organizations, this is how we get it into the system. So this is a pretty typical scanning application. We pull the documents in. These were PDFs or TIFF images, and so we told it to separate on every one, but you can use the interface here to bring things together, so I can actually pull everything into one document. I forgot to unselect it, or with a quick Control-Z, I can bring it back out. So you can rotate it right and left, and really the purpose of the scan module here is just to make a pretty image and get everything in line. Once it's all lined up and we've got the documents captured, we'll send those on over to our application for recognition. And this is where the OCR process happens in the background. So a real quick refresh, we can see that now we have a set of documents, in fact 8 documents and 8 pages, going into the system. And the system is constantly aware and looking for another document. And so right now it's in the recognition stage. And I just hit refresh, so bear with me for just about 10 or 15 seconds as the software operates in the background and pulls off those pieces of key information. So a couple of pre-processing stages, and now the documents are ready for the verification operators. So we've captured them, and now we're going to just get this task, and we're going to show the documents to an operator to make sure that everything worked out okay. So we're going to work on an exception basis. You can see a few little red flags in here, and it looks sort of like the scan module. I'm going to hit a hotkey, and it's going to take me to my first exception. And you can see here that it took us to the 3rd invoice in the batch. And what that tells us is that the first 2 invoices went through sort of that straight-through processing that we were talked about earlier. Our thresholds were met, and our business rules were met, and so an operator didn't need to look at them. So just a quick rundown. On the bottom right is any errors that might come up. Above that is the data that we're capturing, and on the left-hand side is just the image that we captured from the scanner. So in this case, we're just using some math to make sure that the totals add up. And since we found the amount due and not the total amount, an operator can sort of interact here and quickly fix that and say, hey, nope, I wanted the subtotal and the total, not what the amount was due. And to make sure that that never happens again, we can hit that Use for Training button here. So that's the loop I was talking about for the learning. The next time that a Salesforce invoice comes in, the software will recognize it and it'll be able to pick up the total and not the amount due. So a quick hotkey here validates that the information that we captured was correct, and it moves us on to the next issue. So in this case, it's taking us and saying, hey, we misread a 2 as a Z, which sometimes happens with OCR technology. Another hit to the hotkey, and we're just validating that the data that we captured for total was correct, since we didn't have any other data to actually use math to match it against. And looks like I should have, there we go. So just a quick look at our purchase orders. So it's just stopping us again because we didn't have any math for the header information. We actually found the purchase order number associated to this, and in the background we have some details of that PO. So you can always go and see in your ERP system what the lines are associated to your order. And if you'll notice down here, we actually captured the line information on the invoice, and then we matched that to the item ID inside of the purchase order data. So if we were to miss that for some reason, we can always just use our lookup to find that, and we can show all the items that have been matched and all the items that still need to be matched. So that makes it a very efficient process for operators to correct any times the software may not have made that match automatically. Also forgot to mention we have the same sort of lookup for the vendor. So if we didn't associate the vendor correctly, or if the software wasn't sure, we can always go into our vendor master file and in sort of a word wheel way type any part of the address, and we can go look that up. So if I start typing apparel, you can see that it'll start finding the record that I need. So we're checking the rules here. So we're capturing information of the header and the line. If there's any issues in the line, we have business rules there to take care of that. So in this case, somebody put a handling charge inside of the line. We can either move that to a header value, or we can say, you know what, this is just a valid value and I want to move on. When we've corrected all the errors and everything's ready to go, we simply complete our task. So that was capturing roughly 150 pieces of information off of 8 documents. If we go back to our monitor and we do a quick refresh here, we can see that it's going to go through an export stage, and this is where we're packaging that information up and delivering it to our ERP system until ultimately it's processed and the system's just waiting for the next document to come back. So that was just a quick look. Hopefully it's enough to make you interested in the software, and we'd love to talk with you more about all of the capabilities that we have around not just invoice processing, but document capture in general.
I wish I would have been logging the time that it took to process it. What was that, 8 invoices, and it took you about 2 minutes, I think, to go through those?
Yeah, so and that really speaks to the efficiency of the process, right? So we had some issues in there, but we were able to very quickly correct them and only have to deal with those exceptions. So yeah, that's the whole gambit there, is to make it quick and efficient.
Great. We do have a few questions. One of them, and I think Todd, you'll probably be best to answer this one. When does a customer typically see ROI after FlexiCapture for Invoices has been implemented?
Yep, no, that's a great question. So, and it differs based on the customer. So, a lot of that's understanding what you're currently spending, and so we have an ROI calculator that we've developed with our other customers that we can come in and actually work with our customers to identify when they can expect a return on their investment. So generally, we'll find that in less than 12 months, maybe better, depending on how much you're spending processing your invoices today.
Okay, great. Another one for you that came in, Todd. Is there a cloud version of FlexiCapture for Invoices?
Yeah, so we have a cloud offering, and if I can jump out here, I'll just show it to you real quick. So this is our ABBYY.cloud, and as part of our ABBYY.cloud, we have a invoice processing application, and so this is something that's pretty new in our organization as we move to capture as a service and in a cloud offering. So I would encourage anyone that's watching to go here and take a look at it. We'd love to talk with you about how we can apply a cloud offering to your capture environment.
Awesome, thank you. And then, Joe, this is one specific for scanners. They asked, do I really, and you kind of covered this in your session, but do I really need to have a designated document scanner, or will my multifunction printer suffice?
Yeah, I mean, we get that quite often. That's a very good question, and that's why I provided it in the presentation, because it comes up very often. Again, just a matter of what type of documents you're scanning, and basically the volume. I mean, once you get to a certain scanning volume, you don't want to tie up your MFD, and the MFD is not going to handle higher volume scanning. They're rated a lot of times for, say, 70 pages per minute, but they're really not rated for that much. So ultimately, if you're scanning all day, 6.5 hours like you would on a dedicated production scanner, you're gonna find that unit will be down more than you're having it in production. So ultimately you'd want to have a dedicated scanner. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, there's different types of environments. If you're scanning with a distributed model, you're going to have smaller scanners on each of your user's desk, and instead of a central departmental multifunction device.
So I just envisioned that the customer that I was mentioning that they get 1,000 invoices, right around 1,000 invoices a day that they're scanning. I can't imagine waiting in line if I need to use the printer if they're scanning a batch of 1,000. So somebody also asked the pricing. So it is I'll take this one. It's a tiered pricing model, and it is volume based. So, if you're a smaller business that you don't have 1,000 invoices that you're processing a day, that's good for you because, you pay for what you use. So, there's another one. So, Todd, you touched on the international or the multi-languages that you guys support. They said that they have several international vendors, and you said that you guys support over 190 languages, but how does ABBYY, how does FlexiCapture know, like, how does that work? How do they process those?
Yeah, so I certainly talk about all the different languages that we capture, and maybe alluded to the different types of invoices that you might see throughout the world. So the FlexiCapture for Invoices application was created so that we actually have different projects that are specific to different regions based on the type of information that you can expect to capture off of the invoices in those regions. So we have European, we have maybe a different project for European invoices than we would for US invoices than we would for invoices in Chinese or Japanese or Korean. And so the way that the configuration happens is that you simply provide, based on whatever language that you want to capture, a series of anchors or keywords that associate to the different pieces of information that you want to capture. You put those in for that specific language, as well as some other pieces of information around any sort of VAT or tax or percentages that we might use behind the scenes to sort of better predict the amounts that we're going to see for tax in total, and off you go with a brand new language with a very sort of short ramp up and short configuration time.
Okay, I hope that helps with that question. And then the final question that we got was, how long does it take to set it up? Todd, can you take that one?
Yeah, I can. So from a FlexiCapture for Invoices perspective, it's really based on sort of how complicated you might have, but it's more of a turnkey application, and it's most of the configuration is done out of the box. The services that are necessary are really around installing the application and connecting it to your existing systems. So our professional services division and our partners like Optiform, we can do it, or we have done it in as short as just a few days, or certainly less than 4 weeks. I would say on average less than 10 days to get it up and going.
Okay, great. Well, that's all the questions that we received today. So I want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you both Joe and Todd for your great presentations and explanations. If anybody has any follow-up questions, you'll be receiving the recording of the webinar in your email. I think it's tomorrow that it should come in. And there will also be a few handouts as well. And feel free to follow up if you have any questions about specifically for your organization and pricing or any additional functionality, and we'll be happy to answer those questions for you. So I hope that you have a great rest of the day, and we will hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Nicki. Bye, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.